Imagine a technology that grabbed, what, 100 million users in just 2 months?
It's staggering, isn't it?
Completely. Faster than TikTok, faster than Instagram. We are, of course, talking about generative AI, tools like ChatGPT.
Hmm.
And the experts you highlighted in these sources, well, they seem to agree. Its impact on the economy is set for, well, significant growth.
That's the consensus, yes. It looks set to fundamentally reshape how tasks get done.
And accelerate achievement across loads of fields. This isn't some far-off future thing, is it? It's happening right now.
It absolutely is, transforming the professional landscape as we speak. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission here is simple. We take your collection of sources, articles, research, maybe even your own notes, and we boil them down, get to the core insights.
Exactly. Give you a shortcut to being properly well-informed. Today, we're diving deep into this fast-moving world of generative AI. We're navigating specifically through your source material.
Right.
So we've got this comprehensive guide on Gen AI applications, and also a really detailed piece looking at its use in RAC scientific research and writing.
Two quite different angles, but both crucial.
Our aim is twofold. First, pinpoint the practical, genuinely powerful ways you can actually use generative AI in your professional life. And second, really scrutinize the critical challenges, the caveats you absolutely must grasp before you start relying on these tools.
Non-negotiable, that second part.
To guide us through all this, I'm joined by Prof. Mo Imam, who has this brilliant knack for synthesizing complex stuff and, highlighting what really matters.
Well, thank you. Let's get stuck in.
Right then, Prof. Mo Imam, let's set the scene. Based on the material you've brought today, looking across these sources, it's clear Gen AI is, well, a game changer.
Undoubtedly.
For a professional trying to get to grips with this right now, what's the single biggest takeaway these sources offer?
I think the loudest message, really, is that it's an incredibly powerful tool for boosting creativity, for productivity. But this is big, but it's an augmentation.
Right, not a replacement.
Precisely. It doesn't replace human judgment, critical thinking. The sources, they celebrate its ability to create, what was the phrase, creative and useful content exceptionally.
Yes, I see.
Suggesting it will create new patterns for performing tasks, accelerate achievement, all very positive. But at the same time, they really hammer home the need for human oversight.
Why? Because of the limitations.
Exactly, because of the inherent limitations they detail quite clearly.
Okay, so huge potential, but needs a careful human touch. Understood. Now, that first source, it lists a massive number of uses, doesn't it? For startup owners, employees, students.
It's quite comprehensive.
Thinking about our listener, probably a mid-senior professional, juggling a lot what feels like the area with the most immediate sort of tangible impact in a typical office environment.
Based on the practical examples, particularly in that first source, I'd say the most immediate wins revolve around enhancing daily workflows.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, improving communication efficiency seems key. Drafting emails, preparing reports, generating summaries,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Stuff we all do constantly.
Exactly. And also providing structure for tasks and projects. Using established techniques, the source mentions things like the Eisenhower matrix or time blocking.
Ah, okay. Applying those frameworks.
Yes. AI helping you apply them. These seem to offer the quickest, most direct benefits. Saving time, improving the quality of routine outputs, things almost every professional deals with daily.
Right. And flipping that coin, the challenges. The sources are very upfront about these too. What's the single most crucial warning professionals need to keep front of mind?
Without a doubt, it's the fundamental risk of inaccuracy, what the second source calls hallucination.
Hallucination, right?
The warnings are, well, pretty stark. The output can look perfect, grammatically flawless, sounds authoritative, but it can, and often does, contain factually wrong or misleading information.
So don't trust it blindly.
Absolutely not. The sources stress that relying on AI-generated content, especially facts or figures, without thorough, independent verification, that's a significant professional risk.
Okay, that's a really vital warning right at the start. Let's park the caution for a moment, though, and dive back into the power side. That first source, the 100 Applications Guide, it paints quite a picture.
It does.
Describes Gen AI creating creative and useful content exceptionally, leading to new patterns for performing tasks, innovative means to accelerate achievement. It breaks down uses by groups, startups, employees, grads, students. How should our listener, the established professional, sort of read across those categories, apply it to their own world?
That's a great question. It's really important to look past the specific labels. You might not be a startup owner looking for seed funding, right?
Probably not, no.
But the source list applications like market analysis, competitive research, generating business ideas, those are crucial skills for strategic thinking at any level.
Okay, so the underlying task is relevant.
Precisely. Or you might not be a student writing essays. But the methods using AI to simplify complex concepts, structure learning, summarize dense reports, that's directly applicable to continuous professional development. Staying current?
Right, keeping up to speed.
The core idea is that Gen AI acts as a creator and an accelerator. It can take scattered information or apply a structure you give it and quickly generate something coherent. A draft report, a list of ideas, a structured plan.
So it changes the starting point.
Fundamentally, instead of staring at a blank page or wrestling with structure, AI gives you a solid first draft, or maybe several potential directions. This lets the professional focus their valuable time on refining, on strategic oversight, applying their unique expertise, their context.
So it shifts the effort from generating to curating and evaluating.
Exactly that. It's just the human effort up the value chain, you might say.
Right, I see. Leveraging AI for that initial grunt work, freeing us up for higher level thinking. Let's get specific then, using some of the prompt examples from that first source. You mentioned communication efficiency. How exactly can AI help professionals improve their comms or save time there?
Well, the source gives very practical, almost template-like examples. It outlines prompts for writing letters or emails about specific challenges or opportunities.
How does that work? You're guided to provide the key details. Who it's for, the purpose, the outcome you want, relevant background, the tone required.
Okay.
AI takes those inputs and generates a draft that, as the source puts it, is clear, concise, and professional. Now, that's incredibly useful for busy professionals needing to communicate complex stuff effectively, persuasively, but who are short on time.
I can see that. What else in communication?
The source also mentions prompts specifically for negotiation, suggesting AI can help structure your arguments or find the right phrasing in sensitive conversations.
Interesting.
And beyond just drafting new stuff, the source flags AI's use for summarizing long email threads or documents.
Ah, yes, the email mountain.
Exactly. You feed it the text, and AI can quickly pull out the core message, the main points, any action items. That can be a massive time saver when you're drowning in information, trying not to miss something crucial buried in paragraph 17. That summarization function alone sounds like a potential game changer for managing the inbox.
Okay, moving beyond drafting and summarizing. How do the sources suggest AI supports idea generation, innovation, especially for experienced pros who might feel a bit stuck in their ways?
This is where it gets quite exciting, I think. Gen AI can be a really powerful creative catalyst. The source explicitly mentions its ability to brainstorm new ideas, foundational for innovation, right?
Sure.
But what's really interesting is the mention of generating ideas that might contradict the dominant narrative or challenge assumptions.
Okay, pushing back against the status quo.
Exactly, which is vital because established professionals often operate within existing paradigms. You can structure prompts to specifically push the AI to explore alternatives, question underlying beliefs about a problem or a market.
How would you do that?
Well, the source gives examples, prompt outlines for generating content that challenges assumptions on a topic. And a really valuable technique mentioned is asking the AI to role-play a specific character.
Role play. How does that work? You could ask it to respond to a business challenge from the perspective of, say, a disruptive startup CEO, or a cautious regulator, a really demanding customer, even an expert from a completely unrelated field.
Ah, I see. To get different angles.
Precisely. It forces you to consider perspectives and implications you might otherwise miss. So for professionals involved in strategy, problem-solving, new initiatives, AI becomes this versatile brainstorming partner, offering structured approaches, sometimes unexpected insights that can break through creative blocks.
That role-playing idea sounds fascinating, a great way to spark different thinking. What about more structured stuff, applying professional methods? The first source mentions things like the Eisenhower matrix, time blocking, even PMP for project management. How does AI help apply these frameworks?
Right, so the source introduces techniques like the Eisenhower matrix, sorting tasks by urgent, important.
Do first, schedule, delegate, delete.
That one.
That's the one. And time blocking, allocating specific time slots for tasks. Now, while these are initially shown for, say, a student's study schedule, the source explicitly frames the AI's capability as helping employees with managing time effectively and improving productivity.
So how does the AI help? Does it do the matrix for you?
Not exactly do it, but it helps you structure the application. You give it your list of professional tasks, maybe your working hours, constraints, and you can ask it to analyze that list and suggest categories based on the Eisenhower principles you provide, or generate a potential time block schedule for a project phase based on your inputs.
Ah, okay. So it takes the theory and helps make it practical for my situation.
Exactly. It's not performing the task itself, but helping you structure the plan using these effective, established methods. And similarly with the PMP mentioned project management professional methodology, it implies AI can assist with applying those principles. Perhaps by helping structure project phases according to PMP guidelines, generating outlines for standard documents, maybe even identifying potential risks based on common project challenges. The AI helps operationalize the framework, giving you structured output based on your specific project details.
So it bridges the gap between the abstract framework and a concrete plan. Very practical. Okay, beyond the day-to-day efficiency and planning, what about content creation? For external stuff or internal comms,
Yeah.
websites, newsletters, social media posts?
Absolutely. And again, the first source provides quite detailed templates here,
Mhm.
specific prompt outlines for generating content for different output.
Like for a website.
Yes, you define the purpose, target audience, key messages, what content you need for different pages, home, about us, services, whatever. You input details about your business, your offerings, value proposition, and the AI can generate draft copy for those sections.
And newsletters, social media.
Same principle. For a newsletter, specify the theme, the sections needed intro, company news, feature piece, upcoming events, call to action. AI drafts content for each bit based on your details. Same for social media posts.
Now, that sounds incredibly useful for teams maybe without dedicated marketing support or just short on time.
It's invaluable for that. AI provides a significant head start, allows for quicker iteration, frees up time for the strategic messaging, the quality control.
Leveraging AI for those initial drafts.
Yeah.
That could be a real game changer for many teams.
What about using AI for learning, continuous professional development? How can it act as a sort of personal learning assistant?
The sources show it's quite handy as an accessible learning aid. For professionals bumping into complex technical topics or new concepts in their field.
Which happens all the time.
Indeed. The source highlights prompts like, explain this concept in a very basic way and give specific examples. That's not just for students. It's a direct route for busy professionals to quickly grasp something unfamiliar without wading through dense papers.
Okay, simplifying complexity.
Yeah.
What else? It also mentions applying the Feynman technique for learning with AI.
The Feynman technique. Remind me.
It's about simplifying a concept, trying to explain it simply, like to a novice, and that process helps you spot gaps in your own understanding. AI can provide steps for applying this method, maybe asking you clarifying questions, identifying where your explanation is weak, simulating teaching someone else.
Right, like a virtual study buddy.
In a way, yes. And for career advancement, it can suggest highly rated books in a field, recommend valuable certifications, even help prep for interviews by simulating an interviewer, or offering salary negotiation strategies based on industry data.
That you'd absolutely have to check any data it gives you on salaries.
Oh, absolutely. Verification is key, as we'll discuss. But it can provide a starting point for that research.
So it distills information, structures learning, offers career support, a huge range. Now, the first source also lists loads of different AI platforms beyond the household names like ChatGPT or Midjourney. Just to give a sense of the breadth, could you briefly mention a couple of the less common ones and what they do?
Certainly. The source points to tools designed for very specific tasks. For instance, MeetGeek. It's mentioned as an AI meeting assistant.
Okay.
Integrates with Zoom, Teams, etc. It automatically records, transcribes, generates concise summaries, shares key ideas, action points, highlights. A direct productivity tool for anyone swamped with online meetings.
I know a few people who could use that.
Quite. Another one is Quillbot, an AI-powered paraphrasing and writing refinement tool. The source suggests it can significantly cut down time spent revising, editing, proofreading by offering alternative phrasing, improving grammar.
Right, polishing text. And then something quite different, interior AI. Described as a tool that generates interior design ideas from a photo, creates multiple options based on user input. Wow, so visual applications too.
Exactly. It shows the landscape is really diverse.
Yeah.
Tools targeting niche aspects of professional work, way beyond just text generation.
That's a really helpful snapshot of the capabilities. Communication, task management, content learning, even niche tools.
Okay, let's shift focus now to that second source, the one looking specifically at Gen AI in scientific research and writing. This moves us towards more complex analytical tasks, Professionals dealing with lots of information, detailed analysis. How does AI help there based on this material?
Well, the second source really digs into how AI can assist in these more demanding workflows. Using scientific research is the case study, but the principles apply more broadly to anyone doing detailed analysis or document evaluation.
Okay.
It highlights AI's ability to extract and summarize information from complex texts. For example, the authors tested tools like Newbing.
Which is now Copilot, I believe.
Indeed, yes. They found it capable of effectively summarizing the key points of a review paper, showing it can condense large amounts of information into digestible summaries.
Okay, distillation again. What about evaluating documents? Can AI help assess quality, validity, arguments within a paper, a report, a proposal? Yes, the source explored this. They tested AI's ability to evaluate scientific papers for strengths and weaknesses. And in one notable case, when given the full text of a research article, Newbing provided what the authors called an accurate summary and evaluation of the manuscript's strengths and weaknesses.
Really? That's quite something.
It is, and similarly, it accurately spotted shortcomings in a review paper they fed it. This suggests AI can, to some extent, perform critical analysis, helping a professional quickly identify potential flaws, strong points, areas needing more scrutiny in a document they might otherwise spend ages evaluating manually.
So it supports the critical process, doesn't replace it?
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's how the source framed it. Supports, doesn't replace.
That's impressive, getting that quick, potentially insightful critique. What about drafting responses to feedback? That's common. Peer review responses, client critiques, internal feedback.
Another area they tested, specifically drafting responses to critical peer review comments on scientific papers. They found AI could generate well-written and pertinent rebuttals to specific criticisms.
Even for tricky comments.
Apparently so. In one scenario, there was a difficult request the original authors couldn't actually fulfill due to resource limits. The AI-generated response managed to navigate this quite skillfully, acknowledge the limitations, explain the technical difficulties, aligned with the reviewer's point, but defended the work done.
Clever.
The source noted the responses were generally well-written and organized, with coherent writing and convincing arguments pertinent to reviewers' comments. So, for professionals needing to draft careful, structured responses to detailed or critical feedback, AI can provide a robust starting point, help organize points, formulate arguments, ensure a professional tone.
But the final content, the strategy, that still needs human input.
Absolutely. Always. Okay, so quick recap on the power side then. Based on these sources, GenAI offers this huge toolkit, dramatically improving comms efficiency, acting as a dynamic partner for ideas and innovation, helping structure tasks with established methods, speeding up content creation, acting as a learning assistant, summarizing complex docs, providing initial critical evaluations, even helping draft responses to tough feedback. It covers a lot of ground.
It really embodies that idea from the first source, doesn't it?
Yes.
Accelerating achievement, creating new patterns for work, right? That exploration of the power is genuinely exciting. But as you warned us right at the start, and as both sources really stress, this power comes with big challenges, requires serious caution.
Crucially important, the first source asks that key question about output quality. Is it always correct? The second calls factual inaccuracy a major pitfall. Let's turn squarely to this problem now. Quality, reliability, the risks involved, absolutely. For any professional thinking about using these tools, understanding the limitations is, well, paramount. The basic issue, flagged in the first source, is how these models work. They generate text based on statistical patterns learned from vast data sets.
They don't understand like humans do.
Exactly. No true understanding or context. So they can produce grammatically correct text that is factually incorrect or misleading. The second source really drills down on this, introducing hallucination as the term for this inaccuracy.
Hallucination, we hear that word a lot. Can you explain exactly what it means in this AI context based on the second source?
Well, it means the model produces information that isn't grounded in reality. It's false or inconsistent with its training data or the context it's given, but it presents it confidently, as if it is fact.
And it's not just general errors.
No, the second source is very specific. It can involve misattributing facts to non-existing source citations. It actually invents sources.
Wow.
And this is presented as an intrinsic limitation, part of the current model architecture, not just a bug to be fixed.
So it's inherent.
It seems so. The authors even tested if using more conservative settings like more precise in New Bing would stop it.
And did it?
It helped a bit, perhaps, but did not fully eliminate the problem. The tendency to hallucinate seems deeply ingrained.
That's critical. Even trying to force precision doesn't guarantee accuracy. Can you give us some specific, maybe vivid examples of hallucination from the source or its appendices?
Yes, the second source gives concrete examples from their tests, really illustrate the problem. For instance, Appendix Text S3. When asked for references or sources for claims it made, the AI was seen to simply invent authors, create completely fictional citation details.
It didn't just fail to find them, it made them up.
Precisely. Fabricated, plausible-sounding, but totally non-existent ones. Another quite striking example, in Appendix Text S4. The AI was asked to summarize a specific research paper, the text of which was provided.
Okay.
The paper clearly stated the research used a CACO2 cell line. That's a human intestinal cell line used in labs.
Right.
But the AI confidently stated the authors used mice as the testing subject. It completely hallucinated the experimental model, said something fundamentally untrue about the core method of the very document it was analyzing.
That is genuinely alarming. Inventing sources, fabricating core details about the material it's meant to be processing. What are the bottom line implications of that for a professional relying on the output?
Well, the implication is profound, isn't it? You simply cannot treat AI-generated content as inherently reliable without checking it yourself, especially anything presented as fact or a reference.
You have to verify everything.
Absolutely. The sources are crystal clear on this. As the second one notes, the AI's output often sounds great. Polished language, authoritative, and polite tone, which can make it difficult to spot errors.
So it looks convincing, even when wrong.
Exactly. You might get a perfectly written statement, a beautifully formatted citation that's completely false. If you use that in a report, a presentation, base a decision on it without checking, you risk spreading misinformation, making bad calls, damaging your own credibility.
It highlights that it's a pattern matcher, a text generator, not a truth engine.
Spot on, not a truth engine.
Understood. The risk is huge because the wrong stuff looks so right. Which brings us straight back to that crucial emphasis both sources place on human oversight. Source 1 calls it of utmost importance. Source 2 stresses users must validate the model's response, and that individuals are ultimately accountable for anything they produce, even with AI help. What does that essential oversight actually involve in practice, according to the sources?
It means being proactive and critical. Source 1 talks about critical analysis of the output. Source 2 gives more detailed steps for this validation.
Like what?
Firstly, applying basic common sense. Does the claim seem plausible? Does it fit with what you already know? Secondly, and most importantly, you must validate any factual claims against reliable, independent sources.
Go back to the original data or trusted literature.
Yes. If the AI summarizes data, makes an assertion, check it elsewhere. Thirdly, given those hallucination examples, be incredibly diligent checking any bibliographic details or sources the AI gives you.
Do the authors exist? Does the paper title match?
All of that. Does the citation look right? Finally, the second source suggests weighting information based on where it came from. Give more credibility to info drawn from trusted sources you provided the AI or from well-established, highly cited papers in the field compared to totally novel claims or references generated solely by the AI.
So treat the AI output as a starting point, a draft, a suggestion that needs your expertise and verification to become trustworthy.
That's the essence of it.
So far from making things easier by just giving answers, these tools actually demand more critical engagement and verification from us.
In a way, yes. A different kind of engagement.
Are there other big challenges or limitations mentioned besides hallucination and the need for validation?
Yes, several other practical points are flagged up. The second source highlights randomness.
Randomness.
You might put the exact same prompt in at different times, or even in the same session, and get significantly different responses.
So results aren't always repeatable.
No. Which means if you get a great result once, you might struggle to replicate it. Or you might need to tweak the prompt, ask several times, explore the range of outputs to find the best one.
That unpredictability could be frustrating. What about limitations around the data AI learns from?
Well, these models are trained mostly on publicly available information up to a certain date. So as the second source points out, they can struggle with content behind paywalls, academic journals, proprietary company data.
Which professionals often rely on.
Exactly. It's a real constraint if your work depends on specific restricted information. The source does mention, maybe a bit optimistically, that if the metadata of paywalled publications is informative, AI tools might at least extract key details, even without the full text.
Interesting. Structuring our own data to help the AI. Were there any infrastructure or resource limits mentioned?
The first source touches on that briefly. Running these advanced models needs serious computational power, ongoing maintenance.
Mostly a problem for the providers.
Mainly, yes, but it can affect the user indirectly. Processing speed, potential downtime, cost of access. The source also warns about pushing local hardware too hard, though most interaction will be via the cloud.
And I noticed the first source specifically mentioned issues with certain languages.
It did, highlighted a weakness with non-English languages, citing Arabic specifically, where natural language processing might still struggle. However, yes, the second source offers a slightly more positive view here, noting rapid progress. It uses the Bing image generator example. Initially, English-only prompts, now supports over 100 languages. So while complex nuances in less common languages might still be tricky, the multi-language capability is improving fast, important for a global audience.
That rapid evolution is definitely a theme. Any other major challenges flagged?
Just briefly, the first source mentioned platform risks.
Meaning?
The potential instability in the AI tool landscape itself, platforms getting bought, shutting down, changing their services drastically. If you integrate one tool deeply into your workflow, that presents a disruption risk if it suddenly disappears or changes.
Good practical point. Need to be aware of the
It's
ecosystem.
just maybe having backup plans or exploring alternatives.
And finally, both sources touch briefly on ethics. What did they highlight there?
Just brief mentions, really. Source 2 notes the importance of transparency, inclusivity, collaboration, and the community sharing experiences as these tools evolve. Source 1 mentions data privacy as a key consideration in development and use.
So, broader societal dimensions?
Yes. Not analyzed deeply in these sources, but reminders that using Gen AI goes beyond just the tech, raises questions about responsible development, fair access, handling sensitive data, things professionals need to keep in mind. Right. Okay, so consolidating those challenges.
Right.
Output can't be trusted blindly. Needs rigorous human checking due to hallucination, risk inventing facts, sources. Output can be inconsistent. Tools struggle with paywall data. Their infrastructure needs, some language nuances persist. The tool landscape itself is unstable, and ethical considerations like transparency and privacy hover over it all. That covers the main caveats raised.
It's clear that while these tools are powerful, they are definitely imperfect. And the responsibility for accuracy, appropriateness, ethics, it lands squarely back with the human professional. Precisely. The core message from both sources is, they're highly competent assistants, but their output always needs critical evaluation and validation against reliable information. Human oversight isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely mandatory. For professional integrity, for accuracy, it really does feel less like having a magic answer machine and more like working with a brilliant but occasionally erratic colleague whose work you always have to double check.
It's a pretty good analogy, actually.
Right, before we finish, let's do a quick lightning round, pulling out some rapid-fire practical tips directly from the sources for our listener. Ready?
Excellent, yes. Fire away.
Okay. Based on the sources, what's one useful prompt structure a professional could try today to get better results?
Try adopting a persona. Start your prompt with, as a role industry professional, or act as a specific expert type, followed by the request. Source 1 examples show this helps ground the response, tailor it better.
Good tip. Okay, besides the big names ChatGPT, Midjourney, which specific tool mentioned might be worth checking out for immediate practical benefit?
Well, Meet Geek, if you do a lot of virtual meetings, that automatic summarization could be an instant win. Or Quillbot, if refining written comms is a big part of your job, the source implies real-time savings there.
For someone feeling overwhelmed with tasks, what's a quick, actionable AI use case from the sources to help regain control?
Use AI to help structure your workload. Input your task list, ask it to help categorize using Eisenhower principles, or draft a time block schedule based on your priorities and available time, applying those frameworks we discussed.
How can AI help someone preparing for a big career step promotion, new role, according to these materials?
The sources suggest using it to generate potential interview questions for a specific role, helping you practice. Or offering tips for salary negotiation, suggesting relevant certifications to boost your profile.
And finally, for someone starting out, maybe getting disappointing results, what's one quick overall piece of advice from the sources for improving AI output?
Focus relentlessly on refining your prompts. Be clear, unambiguous, specific. The sources really hammer home that output quality is highly sensitive to input precision. Crafting better prompts is the key.
Brilliant. That's a fantastic set of rapid takeaways. This deep dive into your source material, Prof. Mo Imam, has been incredibly insightful, covered the amazing potential, but also those critical limits. Let's just quickly recap the absolute must-remember points for our listener.
Okay.
Firstly, generative AI offers genuinely powerful capabilities across so many professional areas: communication, content, analysis, learning. It really can change how tasks are done and speed up achieving goals. Secondly, it can help you apply established frameworks and spark innovation by generating new ideas, challenging assumptions, simulating different viewpoints.
Acts as a catalyst.
However, and this is the big one, the
Yeah.
output must be rigorously checked. You cannot just take it as gospel due to that significant inherent risk of hallucination and inaccuracy.
Absolutely critical.
Which means human oversight, critical thinking, dedicated verification against reliable sources. They aren't optional. They're essential for professional use. Treat AI output as a very capable first draft, never the final word.
Couldn't agree more. So the advice is experiment. Use specific, well-defined prompts. Explore the potential in your own work. But always, always, always verify the results. Wise counsel.
This has been a really extensive look at a technology reshaping our world. Thank you so much, Prof. Mo Imam, for guiding us through it all so expertly.
It's been a real pleasure. It's a fascinating and genuinely crucial area for every professional to engage with thoughtfully.
If you found this deep dive valuable, please do consider rating it and sharing it with a colleague, perhaps on LinkedIn or X. And a final thought to leave you with. Considering this immense power and these very clear pitfalls of generative AI, how fundamentally does our role as informed critical professionals need to evolve in a world increasingly augmented by these incredibly capable yet demonstrably flawed AI tools? Something to ponder, certainly, as you navigate this new landscape.